This is one of those films that just starts throwing questions at you from the start. Apparently we're on day 400 and I don't even know what that's in reference to. This is 2019's only and I'm sure we'll get some answers soon. Spoiler alert, I might be giving you my opinion, but that's no substitute for watching the film for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. We open up on the entrance to an apartment that seems to have been quarantined at some point, but now an empty hazmat suit is draped over the entrance. We see Will is weeping on the living room couch and Ava is doing the same in the shower. As she showers, she leaves a black trail on the wall and we see the black residue wash off of her as well. After she comes out, she swabs the inside of her mouth to test for something and they both wait for the results to show. After what feels like forever, they notice police are pulling up outside their window. In a rush, they hide Ava under the bed in a basement. That is absolutely the handiest little hiding cubby I've ever seen. I just want one in my house now. Once Will opens the door, soldiers wearing gas masks frisk him and sit him down for more questioning. He tries to play it off like he doesn't know where Ava is, but they search the apartment anyway. The more they talk, we find out that males seem to be carriers for whatever infected all the women in the world. Soon they take him into the bedroom where they see a wall of photographs of women and he plays it off as though they were women that he knew. When the officers go to leave, one of them stops and tells Will to enjoy his last few days with whatever sick woman is with him. Will starts to question him, then he thinks to look at the test on the table. When he sees that it's positive, it all makes sense to him now. After he sits alone for a while, Ava comes back out and tells him that they have to keep packing. When we get a look at the outside world, it almost seems like ashes are constantly blowing in the wind and the streets are completely empty. Soon, an announcement comes on over the town PA and it mentions that there is a curfew in effect that night and to stay away from the ash at night. Ava and Will head into a grocery store to gather supplies and they run into a worker who catches sight of them. He comes over and snatches the hat off of her head to show that she is in fact a woman. After Will questions the man at gunpoint, he gets the man to play along and say that he didn't see anything. Once back in the car, Will lectures Ava. The woman is about to die if I'm understanding things right. I think it's almost pointless to be that cautious now. Next, we flash back to the past where we see that life went on as normally as possible. It shows Ava getting ready for Will to come over and soon the two of them enjoy each other's intimate company. Next, we see day 1 of the ash raining down. That did catch me off guard. I was not expecting a kamikaze bird to soar through the ash there. When they come to the window to observe what's going on, they hear Ava's roommate come inside, and they immediately notice something is wrong. Once the roommate falls to the floor, we cut back to the present. Will leaves Ava in the car to try and check them into the hotel. When Will gets back, he drives them to the last room and they lie down to go to sleep. The next morning, Ava takes a shower, then she wraps her chest with ace bandages and duct tape to try and hide her figure. When they leave, they stop at a roadside diner and Will thinks that it's an unnecessary risk. Ava wants her last cooked meal to be a proper one, so they head inside and sit in the corner booth. When Will takes a second to listen to the news, we hear that the government is attempting a project that will repopulate the Earth by way of artificial womb birthing. They're making great strides, but they can't make it past the second trimester. Meanwhile, Ava pulls out the map and tries to sort out which way they're gonna go. When the food arrives, some hicks show up at the counter and they hear that there's a reward for live females. I'm sorry, they're offering $2 million for a live woman. Would you turn in a family member or a close friend for that much money? After Will notices that Ava is bleeding from her ear, he hands her a napkin to clean herself up, but he knocks a mug down when he sits back down. Quickly, he grabs the keys and Ava and he drives off. Back inside, we see Arthur, who's interested in the couple, and he handles the bill for them while he watches them leave. We see that he has a boy named Casey with him, and Arthur goes to get the map Ava left behind. When Ava has enough of Will talking about the progression of symptoms, she has him pull the car over and she runs off into the woods to cry. When she goes back to the car, she asks to drive and they continue on their way. Even Will has the same questions I do. If she only has a few days left to live, why are they out there risking everything to try and enjoy some nature hike? Just stay home and hold each other until time runs out. When we see back to the past, they've taken Ava's roommate to the hospital and they notice that a large number of women are being brought in with progressing symptoms. Once Ava realizes that it's only women that are being brought in sick, Will tries to get her out and to safety. They steal some hazmat suits and disinfect the entire living space once they get home. Back in the present, Ava is taking in as much nature as she can while overlooking the riverbed. Soon, Will catches up and they lie down on the cliff to rest for a moment. Will asks her why she still takes pictures, and her question is if he believes that there really aren't any other women in the world. He honestly can't give her a real answer. At this point, it doesn't matter. He seems dedicated to spending her last days together, and after that doesn't even matter anymore. She just has to take in the time that she's got left. Will goes into the tent to help her take off her wrappings, and he gets caught up in her in the situation. After he leaves, Ava doesn't really know what to do. When we see the past, we see that Will has set up quarantine routines for Ava, and she's impressed with the measures he's taking to make sure that she's safe. Soon, Ava receives a phone call from someone that explains the state of emergency they're in. When they watch the news, they find out that the ash has started to cause the spread of a disease that hospitalizes women in mere hours. Over the next months, Will and Ava do their best to make the most of their situation. Since men are carriers, they do their best to limit the physical contact they have. We get to see how he created the safe space under the bed, and we really get to see how the world is falling apart at the seams. Ava tries to research the artificial womb, and she even finds an online chat where some of the remaining women in the world are connecting. Honestly, the way they show the world deteriorate and how the relationship between the two of them is strained is done perfectly in the montage version here. Most films would have taken a full act to try and make you feel the strain and connection. They just did that in a few minutes of a montage. I get that the world is falling apart, civil unrest, women are becoming extinct, and they're having a hard time keeping each other safe. Perfect showing. Back in the woods, the lovers trek on, and Will tells Ava that he has something for her when they stop. When he reaches into his pack, he pulls out a flask, and Ava is more than happy to indulge in the invitation. After taking a swig, Will notices that Ava keeps eyeballing his gun, and he asks if she wants to shoot something. Meanwhile, we see that Arthur and Casey are tracking Will and Ava using the map that they left behind at the diner. After Will sets up cans for target practice, he can't hit a target, but Ava can. Arthur and Casey recognize the vehicle Will and Ava used to get there, and they slash the tires before making their way into the forest. That night, Ava and Will have some much-needed personal time to reconnect, but Ava starts seizing in the middle of it. Her symptoms are progressing right on schedule, and Will does his best to comfort her. Back in the past, we see when Will goes to buy the gun, and the owner of the pawn shop thinks that he's gonna be hunting women the whole time. Will tries to explain that it's for pure self-defense, but the owner just won't listen. I love how this guy just isn't in the mood for anyone's crap. He's just like, yeah, say whatever makes you feel better. We see that he comes home with one of the tests, and he's hoping that she'll be okay with him taking the test to see if he's a carrier. If he isn't a carrier, that means that he'll be able to touch her one night at least. After Will takes the test, the results show that he is indeed a carrier. Back in the present, Ava wakes up first and goes for a walk to gather water. She leaves the gun behind, and Will wakes up worried that he's lost her. When Ava starts to walk back, she loses function of her hands, and she drops the water that she just collected. When Will opens the tent and calls for Ava, he is greeted by Arthur and Casey at gunpoint. Ava hears Will yell out for her to stay away from the camp, but it's hard for her to make out. She makes her way to the camp just in time to see them tie Will up to a tree. Will warns them that she's sick, so there's no point in hunting her down, but they don't listen to him. As the men split up to look for Ava, Arthur spots her almost immediately. I mean, he literally took like 4 steps away from the camp and he spotted her trying to run away. I would have started booking it the second that I noticed they were splitting up. Gone! She hides in between big boulders and she waits for Arthur to leave. Once he leaves, the seizures start to happen and no one is there to help her. That night, Arthur sits up by the fire and talks with Will about how he tried to help his wife make it through all of this, and he's genuinely curious to know how Will kept Ava safe for so long. I mean, he's not wrong. I'm surprised society is holding up as well as it is considering mankind is technically facing extinction right now. The artificial womb project only makes it to the 2nd trimester and it took a year to get to that. I can't imagine they'll figure out the rest before everything crumbles into one of those post-apocalyptic films. The way Arthur explains everything, he makes it seem as though he's only doing it for the good of mankind. He says he's disappointed that she hasn't turned herself in for the greater good, but Will asks him if he would have turned his own wife in. Of course, Arthur tells him that she would have done it herself if she knew that it would have helped. When we flash back to the past again, Ava goes to her online chat and she realizes that there are only 2 women left. After talking to the other woman, she finds out that the other woman is positive and she's already started showing symptoms. Before the other woman leaves leaves the chat, she sends Ava a picture that matches all the others they found on the bedroom wall earlier. As Ava hangs the picture up with the rest of the pictures, it becomes clear that these were all women from the chat, and the dates that they found out that they were sick are in the picture with them. Well, that's just depressing. What makes it a little more terrifying is that when the guys wake up in the present, the ash is raining down on them and they see Ava walk out of the forest naked. Why naked? On top of that, she walks right up to Casey, who looks like he's never seen a naked woman before, and starts caressing him. That poor boy will never trust a naked woman again. It's a good thing he can't just find women all over the place, because I don't think he'd ever trust another woman after that. Ava rushes over to cut Will loose and they gather the gun in a blanket. Before they leave, they hear Arthur waking up in the tent and Will goes to wait for him to come out. After some silence, Arthur shoots out at Will and Will shoots into the tent. Both men are injured now and Will and Ava run into the forest. When we cut back to the past now, we see that we're watching the same day that we started on. Will sees that Ava's father is calling on the phone and he lets her talk to him against his better judgment. After hearing how heartbroken he is about her mother being taken by the government, she can't help but speak out for him to hear her. Will quickly snatches the phone up and tells her that she can't be talking over an unsecured line. Otherwise, the military will be there any second to pick her up like they did her mother. That was the wrong choice of words, because then she blames him for trying to control him. He assures her that it was only to keep her safe, but she doesn't appreciate that she didn't have any say in whether she wanted that or not. After Ava breaks down, she wonders why they're even doing all of this. She wonders if they're waiting for a cure, a miracle, or if this is just how things are now. Will assures her that they're gonna make it through all of this. Will turns around for 1 second, and when he turns back around, Ava has the gun pointed at him. She tells him to leave, and after a minute, he does just that. After Will leaves, Ava puts on a suit and heads for the roof, and Will quickly makes his way to the roof to stop her from taking off her suit. He doesn't make it in time, and she takes it off to feel the wind on her skin. Back in the present, they barely make it to the waterfall that they were journeying towards as Will is injured, and her sickness is beginning to take over her body. As they remember their journey to where they are, they kiss and embrace for what might be the very last time. After the screen cuts to black, we open up on the waterfall again, and Ava hands him the camera so they can take her picture with her date. After that, the credits roll. So the whole world just ends then, or are we just supposed to assume that they eventually figured out the artificial womb? I know this story was about their journey, but they put that question out there. I was hoping for some solid answers. Technically, we don't even know for sure that she dies. Either way, it was a beautiful rendition of freedom versus choice, and the setting made it an even tougher one to fight with morally. Tell me what you think you would do in this situation and go ahead and give it a watch. It was pretty good. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.